The following is paid programming.
You're listening to Something More with Chris Boyd, Financial Talk Show.
Asset Management Resources, LLC, and J. Christopher Boyd, CFP, provide investment advice on an individual basis to clients only. Proper advice depends on a complete analysis of all facts and circumstances. The information given on this program is in the nature of general financial comments and cannot be relied upon as pertaining to your specific situation. AMR, LLC cannot guarantee that using the information from this show will generate profits or ensure freedom from loss. Listeners should consult their own financial advisors or conduct their own due diligence before making any financial decisions.
I'm a big fan of money. I like it. I use it. I have a little.
You want something more.
I keep it in a jar on top of my refrigerator.
Something more from your hard work.
I'd like to put more in that jar. That's where you come in.
It's gotta be something more. Gotta be more than this.
Whether it's financial planning, mortgages, insurance concerns, or those quality of life issues that make the money matters matter. Whatever is on your mind today, call Something More now, toll free, 866-771-8901. Come on, let's get you something more.
I still can't even hardly believe my ears when you even tell me this.
Gotta be something more.
Something More with Chris Boyd, certified financial planner professional, advising clients across the country. Here he is, J. Christopher Boyd.
All right, welcome back to Something More with Chris Boyd. Happy New Year to everybody. Glad you're with us. Thanks for spending some of your day with us here at Asset Management Resources for the Something More with Chris Boyd radio program. And we are thinking about New Year's and thinking about resolutions. And with that, we've gathered some of our team members to share what are they thinking about as it relates to New Year's resolutions. I've got Kathy Ingersoll with me, Jeff Perry, Scott Birmingham, and Brian Regan, all members of our team here at Asset Management Resources. Let me start with the planners among us, Scott and Jeff. I'm going to start with Scott, our lead financial planner, and ask you, Scott, what kind of resolutions have you been planning for 2022?
Well, since most people are terrible with their New Year's resolutions, I'm using reverse psychology. So I plan to sleep less, work out less, eat more junk food, and spend more.
So you're thinking if you put these as your resolutions, you're more likely to do the opposite because resolutions rarely seem to be implemented. Is that your thought?
That is my reverse psychology method for 2022.
I wonder if it'll work. Sleep less. What was the rest?
Work out less.
Eat
more junk food.
All right. This is my kind of resolution. I could dig this, although I don't think that's well, we'll find out in the next segment when we talk to Nancy Hardway, a coach, about what are the best ways to have effective resolutions, I'm sure. All right, Scott, thanks. Jeff, let me ask you, anything you're planning about, anything you're thinking about?
I'm not quite as ambitious as Scott seems to be on this one.
Yeah.
Or not.
I've been a runner my whole life, and 2021, I kind of got out of it. We moved to Florida and bought a new home and, all this new stuff. And I got out of the routine of racing and the local races and training. So as stereotypical as this may sound,
yes,
my goal is to get back out there and participating in races. We have a granddaughter, Faith, who's a highly competitive high school runner. So she's inspiring me to, I'll never keep up with her anymore, but inspiring me to get back on a training regimen and get back into the local races and do something that I enjoy and that's good for me. So
good for you. Do you have SMART goals around this in terms of specific? I know this is your thing, SMART goals. So in terms of how many 5Ks or whatever it might be, or when you're
I didn't want to sound too nerdy, but yes, training 3 times a week and racing at least once a month.
Good for you.
Is my SMART goal. Something that's not crazy. It's not like every day and running a marathon every month, but participating in a community race once a month and training at least 3 times a week. So I can measure it. Yep.
Good job. Brian, how about you? Anything you want to share?
I'm a little different about my personal goals than I am about my professional goals. Like Jeff, with professional goals, I want them to be very specific and measurable and all that. But I found in my personal life that if I'm very unspecific, I'm more likely to stay on track. So, for example, a couple of years ago, one of my resolutions was just to eat more vegetables. I didn't have a specific number of vegetables, and I just found, I just found that like if you don't get discouraged in January. You kind of go a week without, eating enough vegetables. So it became one of my, I definitely worked more vegetables into my diet throughout the year than I had in the previous year. But professionally, I obviously spent a lot of time thinking about this, and we've been going over our 2021 achievements. And I look back at January of last year, and it was a much different market environment than it's going to be in January of this year, where I think my job is actually going to be harder in 2022. So I think a professional general goal is to, strive to continue to do well despite a more difficult environment.
Love it. All right. Kathy, do you care to share?
Oh, sure. You know what? My resolutions are the same as probably 90% of the people in the world have, lose weight, exercise, get my finances in order. And then I have a box of about 10 boxes of pictures that I want to get organized. So,
that's cool.
Those are my goals.
Yeah. I'll share a couple too. I mean, so one of the things that I tend to be a night owl, and at the same time, I think that people who are early risers tend to be more productive. So I'm hoping I might be able to alter my habit a little bit and go to bed a little earlier, get up a little earlier, and try to spur certain activities. I have some exercise related intentions and lifestyle, to your point, Kathy, about, trying to lose a little bit of weight. And I'm definitely I've got some goals there. I don't want to say them on the radio exactly, but, and then
Chris, can we help you with that? Would you like to assign each of us a specific day to call you at 0600?
Well, thanks, Jeff. That's a great offer. I appreciate that. Not quite ready to commit to that just yet, but I'll keep it in mind. One of the things that also I need to give thought to is a little less Diet Coke, a little more water. So that's a challenge for me. But I drink probably too much. Certain amount of reading, Audible or whatever it might be. I want to spend some family time, things like that. Some goals with family and so forth, a little bit of travel, things along those lines. Still working on some others, but academic and, intellectual kind of things, as well as spiritual, perhaps. So in any case, lots to think about, and I'm getting the signal, the hook. It's time for a break. We've got our next guest coming up. She's waiting for us. Nancy Hardway will be with us in the next segment. Stay with us, and we'll be right back after this.
Do you have a professional doing your payroll? If not, you should consider Capital Payroll Systems, because they are the professionals. Capital Payroll Systems is the dependable service that provides accurate information and timely service. Capital Payroll is the worry-free service that provides total tax filing and new hire reporting. And Capital Payroll Systems is the personalized service that continually offers unmatched customer assistance and time-saving solutions.
Hi, this is Chris Boyd of Asset Management Resources. We're thrilled with the professionals of Capital Payroll Systems because they make my life easy. I don't have to worry about deadlines or filings and fines. I just talk to Pam or Linda and Terry, and they do all the work. Simplify your life. Talk to Capital Payroll Systems. They are the professionals.
So if you're not using the professionals, call them toll-free at 800-298-0008. That's 800-298-0008. Or visit them at capitalpayroll.com. You'll be very glad you did.
Secret decoder rings were a thing of the past, whether out of a cereal box or old radio shows. But sometimes a decoder might be handy, particularly when it comes to financial services jargon. Hi, Chris Boyd here with something more for your financial well-being. Terms like tax-efficient income, retirement income, decumulation plan can often be code for expensive annuities. Not always, but many times, talk about risk-managed and tax-efficient approach or even probate avoidance, you may need to take out your decoder ring because that very well may translate to the code for annuities and higher costs. What's worse is that often the details of those costs are not even available to you to know because the products aren't sold by prospectus, so they're not required to inform you of how much they charge. You can ask advisors if they're paid by commission, though, and what is their compensation on a product. You might be shocked. Tax-efficient legacy planning might be estate planning, but more likely code for life insurance. Of course, there can be a place for these tools, but be aware they commonly pay commissions from a substantial part of a first-year premium. None of these products are necessarily bad unto themselves, but be careful. Costs can add up. Sales charges can last more than a decade in some cases, and you can get stuck in things with very high costs that may not really be in your best interests. Even when dealing with fiduciaries, including our firm, Asset Management Resources, read the disclosure documents about potential conflicts of interest. Be sure you understand compensation of all types. If you have questions, reach out to Asset Management Resources at 866-771-8901 or amrfinancial.com. Asset Management Resources, for those intent on a secure retirement.
Love was only true in fairy tales.
All right, welcome back to Something More with Chris Boyd. I'm Chris Boyd, certified financial planner, and I have the pleasure of having as my next guest Nancy Hardway. And Nancy's company is Listening to Leaders, listeningtoleaders.com. If you want to find them on the website, the digit 2. And Nancy is a coach, and I'll let her tell you all about her background, but glad to have her here. And one of the reasons I'm excited to talk to Nancy, among others, we know each other from having interacted in the past. But one of the things I love, Nancy, is welcome. Thank you for being here. One of the things I love is that your story sounds like a something more story. We talk about something more and wanting to, the name of the show, but it's not just about the financial, but the quality of life issues that make the money matters matter. Formerly here on Cape Cod, now nestled in Sausalito, right at the foot of, the Golden Gate Bridge there.
Yes,
just
absolutely.
a beautiful seaside community and lots of art and fabulous. What a great place to be for spending your days.
It is an adventure, to be sure. Chris, I am on a houseboat. And
Love it.
So the weather has been very stormy. And so when you live on a houseboat, you move with the tides and you move with the wind, and it's really, really cool. I love it.
That is a great, can we dig into that for a minute or two? Would you tell that story of what prompted you to move to Sausalito and to live on a houseboat? Was this a lifelong dream, or what brought this about?
And ironically, I get very seasick, so I am not a terribly, it wasn't a plan of mine, but my daughter moved out here about 7 years ago and decided to live on a houseboat. And coming to visit her, I was incredibly jealous of the artisticness and the connection with nature and the beauty of the light, because I'm an artist as well. And I thought, this would be really fun. At the time, my husband had Parkinson's, what we thought was Parkinson, and he did subsequently pass away.
I'm sorry for your loss.
So, yeah, it was very hard and obviously life-changing. And I thought, well, this is the time to try something radically different. And yeah, I could come out here and be near my daughter and live in a little condo, but why not try a houseboat? And it worked out.
I love it. And it's an adventure.
It is an adventure.
And, I think oftentimes we talk about legacy and our life's ambitions. And too often we focus strictly on the financial, which is part of the means to the end, but it is not the end. And so that's why we like to talk about the something more. And your story sounds like a great example of someone just taking an adventure and trying something different. Good for you.
Yeah, a lot of my friends, because I don't know if you realize this, but I am 69, and a lot of my friends thought I was absolutely insane because they're moving into retirement communities, one floor living, and I just want to keep living. I want to keep exploring life, and I have a very active business, and part of what I do is model for my clients how to live well.
I love it. Well, tell us a little bit about your background and your story before we dive into talking about this time of year, New Year's, and all that comes with it, with resolutions and goal setting. But tell us about you.
So I'll just make it very quick because it is a kind of a long story, and people, if they really care, can look at either my website, my business website, or I also wrote a blog when my husband was ill called The Artful Caregiver, and that sort of told a little bit more on the personal side, and that's artfulcaregiver.com. But it's I started in college with a psychology degree, but never went in that direction. I became a teacher, and then, on Cape Cod, options at that time in particular were limited, and I really was very entrepreneurial. So I followed kind of starting my own businesses. I was in real estate. I had a developing company, and with went into banking, just a variety of things. But got to the point where I wanted to really put my expertise and life experience to work for others. And so I did a lot of training, and I got a coaching certification and another coaching certification. I taught coaching. And so it kind of evolved. I've had a lot of different experiences and training now that allow me to help people in a very profound way.
Well, it must be extraordinarily rewarding to have that kind of impact, to be able to help people achieve their life's ambitions. I mean, I think we try to do that as well in our work.
Yeah.
But, I think it's a different set of skills and that, you might be dealing with in helping people to hold themselves accountable and to overcome some of their own internal barriers at times and things of that sort.
Yeah. I'll tell you a quick story. I did a favor for a client and spoke to one of the physician's daughters. Just for an hour, she was negotiating a new role in a startup. Months and months ago, probably 7 or 8 months ago, and I got a Christmas gift from her, and an email saying that I had made such a profound difference in her life. That conversation led her to a far more successful negotiating position, and she wanted to thank me. And it was out of the blue.
How terrific. Yeah, that's
1
great.
hour. Yeah.
Well, that makes you feel good. Now, tell us about who are the types of people you typically work with in your business?
Well, it's an interesting situation now. A lot of my clients are in healthcare, in the healthcare field. They're leaders, they're people, but what's typical is people stepping into new roles, larger roles. It can be entrepreneurs who are growing their business, but it's often people who have a lot of technical skills that are stepping into leadership roles, or from one level of leadership to another. But then I also more recently, I've been doing resilience work for people who are struggling in these difficult times. And that's been a little different. I've run some support groups and help people individually. So it's pretty much
So you're running the range of things, from entrepreneurs helping with their, particularly in the healthcare field, but helping with them to kind of have business objectives and grow professionally, to also personal coaching in this challenging time. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, we're going to tap into probably the more personal coaching element of things, I think, for our conversation today. And I love to do this time of year, have a conversation with someone like yourself. We've had coaches and personal trainers, all kinds of guests of this type at the beginning of the year when people are most focused on this kind of issue of self-improvement, let's say. Now, I've had some people say, I don't really like New Year's resolutions, that they think that's a bad idea. Where do you stand on this? I personally think, goal setting of any kind is positive, and it maybe it doesn't matter when it happens, that it's probably a good thing to take time out to step back and to set some objectives and try to identify opportunities for improvement, whether it's, health, fitness, or any other aspect of one's
Absolutely.
life.
Absolutely. I agree. But I do think that the new year offers us a unique psychological opportunity. It feels like we get an opportunity to have a fresh start.
Yes.
And it's certainly something I do at the end of every year. I sit down and I really do a reflection on the year. I usually include everything I've learned, everything I've accomplished, things that didn't go as well as I had hoped, and how I might, do better. I do take some time before I look forward to look back. And I think that's important, because you want to start with where you are. But I start with what I'm pleased with. I don't start with all the
your failures. Yeah.
No. So but I have a little different way of looking at resolutions, and more as intentions, as a guide to how you want to behave and live. So it's a little bit different than a resolution or a goal that you pass or fail at, because I think we should accept the fact that sometimes it's not going to work out.
Yes.
Right from the beginning. And sometimes we'll stray from that path. But if we use it as a guide, we have the opportunity to continue to return to that resolution or intention or whatever, without feeling like we failed and, oh, the hell with it. Like the people who get their gym membership in January, and then after the first 2 weeks, they're never seen again.
Yes, they're subsidizing all the people who go regularly.
Right.
So intentions, how should that differ? How should we think about that differently? Actually, you know what? Can I pause you there? Because we need to take a quick break. Let's come back. We're going to talk more with Nancy Hardway, coach, on this topic of thinking about the new year, how to begin your year with intention. We'll be right back.
Families work a lifetime to develop wealth, and the quality of the estate plan that they get will really drive whether or not that wealth stays with that family or gets dispersed out. The estate plan can really help to crystallize things so that the wealth stays with the family, with the intended recipient. I think that's an important part of what we're trying to do. To me, my clients are like a part of my family. I hope they feel the same way about us, but I certainly feel that way about them. I just want to be there to help them and guide them through the difficult time that they're about to go through. And if we can take any of that burden off of them, that's important.
Call 508-775-7800 or visit boydandboydpc.com. Your family will be grateful. You create the legacy. We create the plan.
Recently, a major mutual fund company completed a study which found that over time, good financial counsel can add as much as 3% per year to an investor's returns. Our complimentary portfolio review could be a great first step toward potentially better returns. Hi, Chris Boyd here with something more for your financial well-being. Have you ever wanted a second opinion on your portfolio? AMR is offering a comprehensive 2-meeting portfolio review right now for a limited time for those with investable assets of $500,000 or more. We'll gather your portfolio details, complete a full analysis, and then provide thoughtful observations and recommendations. Make sure your portfolio is properly positioned for the new year with AMR's complimentary portfolio review. Learn more at amrfinancial.com. Don't delay, though. This offer ends soon. Asset Management Resources, for those intent on a secure retirement.
Any way you want it, just the way you need it, any way you want it.
Welcome back to Something More with Chris Boyd. I'm talking with Nancy Hardway. She's a personal coach, a professional coach, and you can find her information at listeningtoleaders.com, the digit number 2 as opposed to writing that out, but listeningtoleaders.com. And Nancy, by the way, we'll have to hear more about your book, The Awareness Paradigm, A Story of Leadership Success, but we'll come back to that if we have time before the end of the conversation. You were talking about...
That was the intention, Chris, that I set for myself, to write that book a while ago, and it's actually a work of fiction, but it tells a lot of leadership lessons and you get to watch people live them out.
I love it.
But that was the intention that I set, just like we're talking about.
Well, one of the books that I always love is the E-Myth Revisited. Michael Gerber, I don't know if you know that one. It's about the entrepreneurial myth, not for the E, and but it seems like it's a fictional story of sorts that he uses as the device to teach all these lessons.
Right.
I think that's a great way to accomplish all the vignettes that you probably see in real life, but to teach these lessons.
Exactly.
So tell us about this notion of intentions versus resolutions. How should we make sense of this?
Well, there's a metaphor that I refer to, that an airplane going coast to coast, flying coast to coast, is off course more than it's on course but it's constantly correcting for conditions, so it gets where it's supposed to go. And so if we set an intention, it's like we want to end up here. We're not quite sure how we're going to get there. Different from a resolution, which is I resolve I'm going to go east.
Yes.
Go east and still not end up where you want to get to. And I also think it's this notion of, well, if you fail, then you let it go. And I see it as, okay, so you make a mistake. You don't, I don't know, maybe it's you want to, do you have kids, Chris?
Just, yes. Yeah. 3.
Okay. So maybe you want to resolve to be a better father. Maybe you want to have an intention. This year, you're going to be a better father. Well, yeah, you got to figure out, what does that mean?
That is something that's on my plate. You're right.
Okay. So for some, and depending on the age of your kids, it might mean you want to tuck them in every night, or you want to be more patient and curious when they're acting out rather than yell at them. Or you want to go to at least 80% of their baseball games.
Right.
So let's say after the first month, you get super busy, you have a lot of night calls, you haven't been tucking them in. Rather than say, I'm failing at my resolution, you say, well,
and to abandon it in the process. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to do it. Instead.
I wasn't able to do it, so screw it.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes. And that can happen in a lot of ways where we get discouraged,
exactly.
Right?
That's right. That's what happens with resolutions. But if we accept that we're not always going to be able to live up to, but we will always try to live up to them. I will try to tuck my child in every night, and I will be mindful when I'm there.
Nancy, do you think that sometimes people say, you know what, I want to get more fit, and they start out with the first goal, like to climb Mount Everest? I mean, do people get over enthusiastic and therefore they kind of set themselves up?
Oh, that's a really good point, Kathy. Yeah.
Where maybe balance.
And I think right-sized intentions are a good thing. And I think sort of figuring out what is something that's a stretch, but not impossible. And I think sometimes impossible goals are great, as long as they don't discourage you. And different personalities need different types of goal setting or intention setting. But this is a time of year that I think of as, looking at your quality of life, looking at your purpose in life. Why does it matter that you do what you do? Having more compassion for yourself. And that's what I mean about allowing yourself to make a mistake and come back, and it doesn't have to screw everything up.
Right.
Setting goals for what you want to learn. Well, that might be business-wise, because I think all this applies both business and
personal.
If you're in business and personal, and physical and mental health. And I think we leave out mental health too often, especially in these times where we need to set some goals about what we're going to do to build resilience. Because life is tough for a lot of people now. Yes. It's tough in the world, and we need resilience skills, but we're not just born with them. We have to learn them, and we have to practice them like we practice a golf swing or, practice piano or a new language. We have to practice them.
That's a great point. I think a lot of times I'm kind of a believer that just a clarity of vision can help you find that path. You don't necessarily have to have all the answers to your point about this. how do you, that if you know, and I think in business, so I know I want to get to this goal, you have a vision of what that will look like and how, to do that, I need more of this, whether it's a certain type of client or whatever it might be. Having an awareness of that without necessarily even absolute clarity of how you're going to accomplish it can lead you to it, right? So, and I'm sure that's true with health and fitness and all those kind of things. A certain visual of what your visualization can help you to achieve it, perhaps.
Yeah,
So,
for some people,
yeah.
actual visualization, take a bunch of magazines and cut them out and have it. What does this mean to you? Don't just say, I want to be healthy. Well, what does healthy mean to you,
Right.
Chris Boyd? What does healthy, that may not mean the same thing as it means to me. What does fit mean? And it isn't, for me, it is definitely not climbing Mount Everest, but it might be climbing Mount Tamalpais, is the mountain near me. It might be climbing Mount Tamalpais at least once a week, but again, that's a way of getting to fitness, or maybe it's, for me, maybe it's mental health. But if I don't get there every week, I haven't failed. It's my intention to do it, so I'll keep trying.
How does one go from a concept, I have this vague awareness, I'd like to be more physically fit or healthier, or, maybe it's financial in our case, or maybe it's, I want to be more connected to my family or whatever it might be, these ideals. How does one move that to a clarity of vision that is workable? Like, how do I move it from just an idea to something that's specific enough and that helps me to remain on course, or get those course corrections as might be needed?
Corrections, yeah. Well, I think that's a wonderful and very important question, and I think it's something that once you have, okay, I know I want to be a better father. Well, then, what does as you reflect back on last year, what didn't you do that you'd like to do? I think that's part of it. I think it's interim goals, like maybe it's, I want, so typically it's, I want to lose weight. That's a very, very common, so you don't start with, I want to lose 50 pounds. You start with, okay, set interim goals. By the end of February, I'd like to have lost 8 pounds, a pound a week. Okay. Then what does that mean in terms of what do you have to do differently from last year in order to make that happen?
Yeah.
Nancy, that is so helpful, because sometimes I see, I'm just thinking about family, friends, celebrities, whoever, but sometimes you see people that just are going through life, executing the motions, getting up, having your juice. Then you see other people who are like knocking off these like unimaginable accomplishments. And so what is the driver between one versus the other? Is it planning? Is it just their internal
makeup?
Engine or makeup?
I mean, that's a great question, Kathy.
Well, I think there is discipline early on in their lives. The ability, research says that discipline plays a large part. People who have learned discipline early in life, the kid that goes out and shoots hoops in his yard over and over and over again because he wants to make the basketball team. But I think it's also being able to, I think people need to be able to ask for help. I think it's really important to get help with your goals if you need them, and not to look at that as failing. And I also think you need to have a way of reminding yourself what they are. I suggest to people that they put them up and maybe have a time of the week or the time of the month to go back and reflect on those goals. And are they still the right goals? Are they still the right intentions? Have conditions changed? Has a storm come in and you've got to course correct? People,
and that's okay too, right?
And I'll have people say, "Oh my God, I didn't do what I wanted to do." I said, "Yeah, but you did these 15 other things because the building collapsed and you had to figure out what to do about that or whatever."
Right. Yeah.
And they forget about that they've done those things. So now reset your goals based on where you are today and what happened and what are the conditions now and what's possible.
What are like things people should do for tracking and paying attention to? We only have a minute left, really, but like, how do you focus on the right things, I guess, along the way? You know what I mean?
Oh God, if I had a magic wand, but I think it's important to have a system that works for you, and looking back at what worked for you in the past, even in little ways. If writing things down, if signs on a bulletin board, if calendar reminders, if telling a friend.
Well, to that point, Nancy, I mean, I'm sure a lot of times having a coach along the way would be a good way to do that. Someone who can help you, not to give you a little self-serving plug there, but right? I mean, sometimes
Absolutely.
we need help, to your point earlier, and having, if you're going to spend a little money to pay someone to help keep you on track and keep you focused, whether it's a personal trainer or a nutritionist or a coach to help you achieve these various ambitions, or in our case, a financial planner, whatever it may be, having some help can be a resource that is worth some expense and attention to accomplish these priorities that may be important to you.
Finding someone that is knowledgeable and experienced in helping other people reach whatever their goals are, like you in finance and me in leadership and resilience. I think you pay for their expertise for a reason, and they give you a perspective that you don't have otherwise, and they give you support that you don't have otherwise.
Do you offer any kind of a complimentary consultation or anything like that for people who may be thinking
I
along
always
these
have
lines?
a conversation. I always have a conversation with people. I don't necessarily call it a complimentary. I know a lot of people do that. A lot of coaches do. And but I have a conversation to see if we're the right fit, because fit is really important. I don't do things like help people, I don't know, go through a divorce or something like that. I'm not that kind of a life coach.
Right.
But so I think we have to have a good fit. And how do you know if you haven't talked to the person? And I'm not going to charge somebody to find out. That would be ridiculous.
So check out the website, listentoleaders.com, the number 2. And Nancy, thanks so much for spending the time with us. Some great help as we kick off the year. And
I wish everyone well, and with their intentions, and you with yours. Hope you become a better father this year.
Yeah,
Chris.
thanks.
He's a good father. He's a good father
anyway.
That's one of those things that you think about, just all these different priorities and different objectives, and how do you do it best? So, and I think it's about being intentional, a life of intentionality, and that's what we want to try to foster here, whatever that may be for us, each individual. All right, Nancy, thanks so much. We're going to pause there. We'll come back with another segment of Something More right after this. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Keats Boyd from Boyd & Boyd PC. A lot of attorneys give their clients an estate plan called a Medicaid plan. With a Medicaid plan, you're building a plan that makes you qualified for the government to pay for your nursing home care. Essentially, you're planning to go into a nursing home. But at Boyd & Boyd PC, we know that our clients don't want to go to a nursing home. Instead, they want to stay at home. So our plans concentrate on what you need in order to be able to stay in your own home and stay out of a nursing home. If you want to be able to stay in your home, if you want to decide what level of care you receive and not let the government decide how much care they're willing to pay for, then speak with one of our attorneys. At Boyd & Boyd PC, we've been helping families plan their estates and stay at home for over 30 years. Call 508-775-7800 today to schedule your free consultation. You create the legacy, we'll create your plan.
I love birthdays and New Year's, times of new beginnings, a fresh start. As you start this new year, consider it an opportunity to both look back and look ahead. It might just be the perfect time for a complimentary portfolio review. Hi, Chris Boyd here with something more for your financial well-being. If you've ever wished for a second opinion on your portfolio, AMR is offering one right now for those with investable assets of $500,000 or more. This is more than just a quick glance at your paperwork. We'll gather your portfolio details in our first meeting, complete a substantive analysis, and in a second meeting provide thoughtful observations and recommendations. Make sure your portfolio is properly positioned with AMR's complimentary portfolio review. Learn more at amrfinancial.com. But don't delay, this offer ends soon. Asset Management Resources, for those intent on a secure retirement. Welcome back to Something More with Chris Boyd, our final segment of our New Year's show. Thanks for being with us. Just as a reminder, before we go into our next topic, I want to remind our listeners that we are offering a complimentary portfolio review for investors with $500,000 or more of investable assets. And we talked about this earlier in the show. It's a really thorough and lengthy process that we're trying to give you a really good value to help you, as this is the time of year when people really think about their financial life with renewed vigor. And we want to help you do that. And so we're offering a complimentary service. It's a portfolio review, a 2-meeting process. The first meeting is all about you. We gather all your information, learn about your circumstances. Second meeting, after some analysis, we put together a PowerPoint, and we really go into some explanation of what we think are issues that are working for you, things that are structured well, some observations of things you might want to consider doing differently, and if you had any interest in working with us, how we do it. So if you're interested, there's a page where we've given some information on our website. If you want to learn more, you can go right to the front page of our website, amrfinancial.com, and you can sign up right there. But if you want to learn more, you can go through to that web page that we've put together to give you some information about the whole process. So amrfinancial.com, register. Let's jump into our other topic for this segment that we wanted to spend some time on, and a little bit looking back. As Nancy mentioned in our last segment or two, sometimes before you look ahead, it's good to look back. And so we thought just having some fun looking at what are some of the major news stories of last year. And there were several of relevance. I think I'm inclined to save some of the political ones last because we could probably get bogged down and talk about them only.
Speaking of bogged down.
Yeah. Well put. Well put. So one of the interesting stories that caught my eye last year was, again, the second year in a row, life expectancies declined. And that's, of course, tied to COVID. And COVID pandemic, of course, was an ongoing story throughout the year and something that, naturally we all took interest in. Jeff, Florida had that big condo issue in
in South Florida.
Miami,
Yep.
I think it was. Yeah, that captured everyone's attention for a time, huh?
It captured everyone, the tragedy, the deaths, and all that. And now people who have those older high rises, if people may not know, in the 70s and 80s, the coast was developed really in South Florida with these massive condo developments, anywhere from 10 to 30 stories and high priced. I mean, many of these on the water are over $1 million. And now if you own there, or if you were thinking of buying there, there's some hesitation about insurance requirements, inspections, structural engineer costs, and all this because of this tragedy. And obviously loss of life was first about that, but there's some lingering long-term impacts about the value and the desirability of living in a high-rise condo on the ocean.
I think it's a fair point that it's will have some ongoing effect from this, and good. People want to make sure they're safe, right? You got to make sure.
Yep.
But that could add to some significant expenses as condo associations deal with these if there are need for repairs or issues related to that. Last February, do you remember that story about the Texas and their electrical grid and
the grid,
the freeze that
grid.
they had? Yeah, that was a big story as well. Some long
shows our vulnerability,
right? For sure.
Yeah.
Right.
What were some of the other ones?
Well, weather related, of course, Kentucky got hit really hard with a bad tornado.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Right.
Which is very
not too long ago. Yeah, with Illinois, Kentucky. Yeah.
But, you know what? So we had 3 different independent companies go to space, right, with their executives. So
true.
Jeff Bezos went
up.
I can't remember the name. His Blue. What is he? Blue. Blue Origin.
Nicely done. Yeah.
With Captain Kirk too.
That's
Captain
right.
Kirk
That's right.
Finally went into space for real.
That's right. That's right. At 90, I think he was like 90 years old or something. Yeah.
And Richard Branson went up too
Yep.
with his Virgin.
Did Musk as well? Elon Musk as well, or did he not?
Yeah, he went on the first. He went on the first one.
Yeah, yeah. So crazy stuff. What were some of the other topics, Armin, that caught your eye?
Well, one of the big ones for me, I think, Tom Brady winning his 7th Super Bowl the very next year after leaving New England. You know, that really shows.
Either loved it or hated it, depending
exactly.
on
It's a love-hate relationship. But
loved it.
Yeah. I'm sure down there, Jeff, I'm sure it was a party in Florida for that reason.
Yep.
You know
Two
what?
favorite sports teams now. Yep. Patriots and what the other team that Tom Brady's on? Oh, the Bucks. Yeah.
But other team.
Yeah.
But the Olympics too. Didn't they have the Olympics in Japan this year, and nobody could no spectators were allowed to go
because of COVID issues?
Yeah,
so. That's so unfortunate, huh?
Yep.
But
in pop culture, Britney Spears is free.
Free
Right?
Britney.
Free Britney. That's true.
And you know what? Another one that captured my mind when I saw the topic was this was the year of the big TV trials again. I think we've had like 5 or 6 trials that have been like constantly the lead story on the news from
for George Floyd and his
right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What were some of the
and
other
more
ones?
recently the police officer who used the firearm instead of the stun
Taser.
gun.
Yeah.
And then we have the Sonos story with the fraudulent medical tests, and then you had the Georgia story with the conviction of the 3 people who tracked down an African American jogger, basically.
Yes.
And the what was the one with the riots with the young man who shot in self-defense and the jury found him not guilty. Yeah. The name escapes me right now.
I know after watching all these, but yes, I remember. I know the one you're referring to as well. Yeah.
It seemed like we constantly had one or more trials in the big news story that the nation was captured on and, focused on would justice be served.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. On a lighter note, this year, got to go back to the movie theater.
Yeah.
After some vaccinations and so forth, I went to the movies, I think 3 times this year. It felt good getting back to normal.
Yep.
We did too. There weren't many other people there though.
No, it was pretty light. It was pretty light.
Yeah.
But, good to be able to do it.
Yeah.
You want to, anything else you want to go to? Or you want to do some politics stuff?
Sure, politics is good. I mean, I don't know if this is political or not, but Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were in the news a lot, weren't they?
That's right, with that big interview with Oprah
Their
Winfrey.
Oprah interview?
Oprah.
Yep. And their status, I guess, moving away from the royal family.
Royal family, right?
Did I hear that recently there was a death in the royal family?
Well, Prince Philip died
Prince
this year.
Philip's, Philip this year, right?
Yeah.
Right, earlier in the year.
When was that? Yeah, I don't remember when that was.
It was more like March timeframe, or I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This was the first Christmas with the Queen not having Prince Philip by her side. So that was recently in the news. Yep.
Yeah.
In the United States, we learned a single senator from a non-power state, meaning West Virginia, can control the entire political process. Joe Manchin from West Virginia.
Yeah, significant. Do you think that holding up of the Build Back Better will continue into the next year, into 2022, or do you think they'll find some resolution that he'll be able to agree to?
I
still worry about that, I guess, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to get financial because we're saving that, right?
Oh yeah. By the way,
we'll
mention that for next week. We're going to talk about a variety of financial news issues. We'll look back and review, and we'll look at some of the stats of how the markets did and so forth. So we'll tie it in there.
I will answer your question though. With increasing concerns of inflation, I think that Manchin's position that this additional spending will increase the risk of further inflation is going to be to win the day. And so they'll either come back with a real small bill just to save face for President Biden, or they're going to let it go and move on to the next issue.
Interesting. All right. Well, that could involve some tax reform in that process. One of the things that I'm particularly interested in paying attention to. Well, we didn't talk about the biggest story of the year, which was January 6th. Different ways to refer to that. Wall Street Journal referred to it as the mob storms the Capitol. Others have referred to it as an insurrection or an attempted coup d'etat. But
it was a sad day in American history.
It was definitely something that lingers and still has impact that we'll be dealing with. We're out of time for the show, I guess. I'm sure we can talk about many of these issues next week as well. But as we look back, we need to look ahead and want to encourage you to think about your financial planning and portfolio management. And should you care to do that with us, we're happy to have you do that. We offer a complimentary portfolio review for people with $500,000 or more in their investable assets. We'd be happy to talk to you. Take advantage of that. Go check it out at amrfinancial.com. Learn more. We'll talk about that next week as well, but hope you take advantage of it. Happy New Year, everybody. And until next week, keep striving for something.
I'd be rich